Niners fans, take a deep breath, because what happened in the last few hours changed the entire board. There's a heavy defensive update that shakes up the season plan, talk of a trade that could flip the locker room upside down, medical updates that affect who takes the field this week, and yes, an unexpected offensive name popping onto the radar. None of this is gossip. There are concrete signs and massive consequences. Are you ready to face it all with no filter? You won't believe what we've got today. So sit down, smash the like button, and let's jump straight into the news. No sugarcoating it. The 49ers took the punch no fan wanted to imagine. Nick Bosa tore his ACL against the Cardinals and is out for the rest of the season. The impact is devastating on the pass rush, on the pressure packages, and even on the opponent's psychology, since offenses simply played faster when they saw number 97 lining up. Without Bosa, the question is harsh and immediate. How do you salvage the team's ceiling? The answer that started bubbling up around the NFL is bold, expensive, and totally plausible. Turn a surplus at another position into ammunition to replace the edge terror that was lost. Why? Because Cincinnati is going through its own earthquake. The worst loss in recent franchise memory, the scramble for answers on offense, and the possibility of Joe Burrow missing the rest of the year put the team in a tactical corner. They need stability at quarterback to keep the season from slipping away. On the other side, San Francisco needs a dominant pass rusher to maintain its defensive identity. It's the perfect intersection for a deal that's heating up the phone lines. Mac Jones to Cincinnati, Trey Hendrickson to the Bay Area, with draft picks spicing up the package. Before anyone yells fantasy, let's hit the points. Hendrickson is exactly the profile to fill Bosa's void. Endless motor, violent first step, refined hand usage, and absurd production in recent seasons. Strip the names away and you see an all-pro who stacks sacks and pressures even with doubles and regular tight end chips. The contract tweak this offseason hints at two things. The Bengals know his value, but they also opened a maneuvering window if they decide to retool the roster should the season spiral. And where does Mac Jones fit? In 2 starts, he showed quick processing, rhythm-based accuracy, and the willingness to attack intermediate windows, exactly what an emergency offense needs to survive while it redefines protections and identity. He isn't a superstar. He's a competent bridge. For a wounded Bengals team, that can mean fewer turnovers, longer drives, protecting the defense, and giving the locker room oxygen. For the 49ers, moving a backup quarterback plus draft capital makes all the sense in the world given the urgency Bosa's injury created. Tactically, Hendrickson would open space for Bryce Huff and Michael Williams to operate at their best, with Robert Saleh mixing wide 9 looks, line games, and interior stunts to simulate part of the Bosa effect. The rotation gains teeth. Third down gets its menace back. The linebackers can play a step more aggressively because the ball comes out earlier. The corners breathe. That changes the game's mood, alters rival play calling, and brings back that inevitability vibe on 3rd and long at Levi's. Is it bold? Yes. Does it involve picks? Absolutely. But the Super Bowl window doesn't ask permission, and the NFC is watching every move. If the front office believes even half of Bosa's impact is worth the bet, the conversation with Cincinnati needed to start yesterday. And that wasn't even the most intriguing part of the day, because there's another backstage detail that changes this week's plan. Confirmed, and here's the second wave. Kyle Shanahan stepped up to the podium and laid it out. Yes, Nick Bosa's injury is confirmed, but according to him it was as clean as it gets, with no additional knee damage. It sounds like consolation, but the truth is the impact remains massive. Shanahan didn't dodge. He said trades are always possible, but only if the options truly exist. Translation: Tuesday already hints at some backroom movement. And it wasn't just that. He unleashed a flood of updates that reshaped the immediate board. First positive point. Brock Purdy is expected back at practice this week. Wednesday is the D-Day to see whether he has any limitations or is ready to reassume the job without restrictions. His return is more than relief. It means offensive stability at the exact moment. The defense most needs time on the sideline. As for Mac Jones, who had been gaining ground, he's day-to-day after re-aggravating a knee ligament. Another variable at the exact time when every detail matters. And it didn't stop there. Rookie CJ West broke his thumb, will undergo surgery, and shockingly could still return quickly, possibly even in week 4 with a protective cast. That's grit and resilience that fit the DNA of this roster. Michael Williams, dealing with a wrist issue, and Renardo Green with a neck issue were also listed as day-to-day. Same for Jaquarian Jennings, who missed the last game and remains a question mark. The injury list grows, but Shanahan is trying to hold firm that, beyond Bosa, no case should lead to a prolonged absence. The genuinely uplifting news that lit up the fan base was DeMarcus Robinson's return, with his suspension over. Shanahan said he was pumped to have the wideout back, but kept it real. They'll monitor his conditioning before unleashing him on Sunday. With receiver depth thin, Robinson may get usage without much ramp-up. And in both 2-minute drills, Sky Moore was on the field, a sign Shanahan is studying rotation, tweaks, and new opportunities. The vibe is instability but also opportunity. A roster battered by injuries can be the cauldron where unlikely heroes emerge. Shanahan's challenge is balancing the pressure of replacing stars with the chance to unveil names that can explode. And while we're absorbing all of that, brace yourself, because the third storyline raises an uncomfortable discussion about a unit that's becoming a target at Levi's. The Niners' defense has been a relief amid the chaos, but there's one issue that's keeping fans up at night. Renardo Green. The second-year corner finished last season on a high, looked like he'd locked down a starting role and even won the staff's confidence. But through the first 3 weeks of 2025, what's showing up is a very different and unpleasant film. The problem isn't just the numbers, it's how opposing offenses are deliberately picking on his side as a primary target. In the first 2 weeks, Green got burned by Jackson Smith-Njigba and Rashid Shaheed. Talented players, sure, but they found unusual ease attacking his sector. Against the Cardinals, he had flashes but also decisive breakdowns. On the drive that tied it at 13-13, the defense gave up a 32-yard shot to Marvin Harrison Jr. Officially, the blame fell on Fred Warner because the call was zone. But reviewing the leverage in the match, it feels like Green missed the read in man coverage, leaving Murray to exploit the seam exactly where Warner was passing the route off across zones. Details that don't show up in the box score but coaches and locked-in fans notice. A few snaps later, another mistake, pass interference in the end zone, gifting another chunk of 30+ yards. Green looked lost, trying to recover space without ever finding the ball. That's the kind of moment that juices the opponent and deflates the rest of the secondary. And the most worrying part is that this pattern has lasted 3 straight weeks. When opponents need a quick, decisive gain, they don't hesitate, they test Renardo Green. Now the situation gets tricky. The cornerback rotation isn't exactly deep. Pulling Green from the starting lineup right now feels impractical. That means the staff needs adjustments, more safety help over the top, changes in how he aligns in press, maybe fewer pure man snaps in critical situations. The dilemma is right there. The talent is real, but so is the risk. For fans, the frustration is twofold. First, because we've seen Green play at a high level, and the drop-off is tough to accept. Second, because we know how vital a dominant defense is to the 49ers' win formula. Every coverage bust chips away at collective confidence and breathes life into offenses that should be smothered. And in a season that already lost Nick Bosa, there's zero room for another glaring weakness. What's left now is hoping Green finds his rhythm again. If he returns to being the steady physical player from late last season, this defense can take another step and help balance Bosa's absence. If not, every week becomes a roulette wheel in the secondary. But if you thought this was heavy, wait until you hear what the fourth storyline dredges up about an old shadow haunting Levi's. Robert Saleh knows this ghost well. In 2020, as the Niners defensive coordinator, he watched a season crumble when Bosa tore his ligament in week 2. 4 years later, the same script reappears. Just 3 weeks into 2025, and there's the team again without its biggest pass rushing terror. The difference is that now Saleh is back more seasoned, with a few new weapons, but carrying the same burden, finding solutions where there's seemingly no replacement. The problem is simple to describe and hard to solve. With Bosa on the field, the 49ers defense is suffocating, aggressive, able to shorten any drive. Without him, pressure drops by almost half. The numbers don't lie. Pressure on 45.5% of snaps before the injury, just 28% after. Kyler Murray had over half a second more to throw. It sounds minor, but in football it's an eternity. Enough to turn 3rd and long into easy conversions and neutralize the linebacker's aggression. That's the Bosa effect, the difference between dominating and merely surviving. Saleh did get reinforcements on paper. Bryce Huff's explosive first step and first-round pick, Mikael Williams promised depth. But in practice, neither comes close to reproducing Bosa's impact. He isn't just another edge. He's the piece that forces offenses to double-think protections, dictates opponent play tempo, and single-handedly changes how every snap unfolds. His absence isn't only statistical, it's cultural, emotional, structural. History weighs heavy, too. With Bosa, the 49ers are 57-28. Without him, they're just 6-12. It's not fair to put the entire bill on one player, but it's impossible to ignore the gulf between the two realities. Now Saleh has to find a way to challenge that cruel stat line. Either an unlikely breakout erupts, maybe Huff becomes more than a situational specialist, or Williams matures at warp speed, or the front office has to part with picks and pieces to chase an immediate impact trade. The drama is obvious. Either the franchise acts or it accepts that 2025 could be another season compromised by bad luck. It's not the first time that shadow has fallen over Santa Clara, but perhaps it's the one that stings most, because this roster felt ready, balanced, confident. The question echoing among fans is direct: can you believe in another miracle without Nick Bosa? And if you think that answer is obvious, wait for the conclusion that ties it all together and puts you inside the decision that's coming. Take a breath, Niner Empire. The blow to Bosa hurts, but it doesn't define who we are. The window stays open if the front office acts with courage, whether that's a heavy trade for a pass rusher or fast-tracking the rise of Huff and Williams while Shanahan reorganizes the chessboard. Purdy's return stabilizes the offense. Robinson and Jennings can bring relief. Green must meet the challenge. Saleh has won tougher battles and knows the map through this maze. Now it's about conviction. Do you still believe in a live January? Drop a comment, hit like, subscribe, and share with fellow fans. This season demands action, ours and theirs.